House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
You're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to House of Cards. I'm Ashley Adams, your host for the hour. We have a great guest, a guy who has been known in the blackjack world for, at least 30 years, a member of the Blackjack Hall of Fame and the author of maybe the definitive tome on blackjack advantage play. His name is Don Schlesinger. We're going to be talking to him about his book, The Classic Blackjack Attack, now in the third edition, Playing the Pro's Way. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Don Schlesinger.
House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Yeah, you, come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore.
Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
You're listening to House of Cards. Check out our website at houseofcardsradio.com.
Hi, welcome back, listeners. This is Ashley Adams. You're listening to House of Cards. We are very fortunate. There are a few people in the world of blackjack who are well respected and well known. We have, I think, the premier blackjack theorist and writer. He is, I think you could say, the blackjack player's blackjack teacher. His name is Don Schlesinger. He is well known in the field. He has written really the Bible, the exemplar book about professional blackjack play. It's called Blackjack Attacks, Playing the Pros Way. We're going to talk about the most recent version of this book, which is really a classic. He's with us now. Don Schlesinger, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you very much.
Well, we are very fortunate to have you. Could you tell our listeners who may or may not have heard your name the genesis of and the transformation of this book, Blackjack Attack, Playing the Pros Way?
Sure. Actually, it has its roots in, before it was ever a book, articles that I used to write on a quarterly basis for a well-known blackjack magazine that was published by Arnold Snyder back in the day. And around 1980 or so, I started to do research articles and publish original material in that particular magazine. And as the years went by and the articles started to accrue, both the publisher and also Stanford Wong, a well-known researcher at the time, started to urge me to kind of organize all of these and see if we couldn't put them between the pages of one single book for easy reference. And that became the first version of the book, and I believe the date was 1997. Shortly thereafter, we fleshed out a little more material, and we revised some things and came up with a second edition. But a few years after that, I actually changed publishers, and we had a very ambitious third edition of the book, which practically doubled in size the material from those first two editions. We started doing extra studies, more charts, more information, listened to readers who requested various things that weren't in the first two books. And so we came up with this third, what we call the ultimate weapon, the third edition. And that now has grown to well over 500 pages and really was very, very well received by the blackjack community. And probably about 2 years ago, I had the good fortune to once again seek out a revision, and I went to Anthony Curtis, who is perhaps the foremost publisher of gaming material in the United States at Huntington Press and Las Vegas Advisors, and they are now publishing the book, and we're undergoing what I hope will be yet another revision and perhaps even an e-book or a Kindle version. So I'm very pleased to be associated with Huntington Press.
Well, I think it's a mammoth book that certainly as a reference book is an essential part of any professional blackjack player's library. Do you think this book is also useful for somebody who wants to become a successful counter, or is it really beyond their ability to absorb that kind of information?
What we always say in fairness is that this is not a beginning text. And so if someone is looking to get into counting, perhaps even learning the basic strategy of play and then moving on to card counting, in all honesty, we would say this is not the first book that you should buy, because it isn't really a how-to, and it isn't a book that goes through the standard kind of teaching of what you would do if you were embarking on how to learn to count cards. So in all honesty, we consider it more an advanced text and say that when you've got a solid grounding and you kind of know what it's all about, now you turn to Blackjack Attack to kind of get answers to all the questions that may be popping up in your mind now that you're at least at the stage that you can say you know what you're doing.
Listeners, we're going to cut away. We'll be back after a quick break. Borgata has made history again with BorgataSports.com. Sign up today with promo code HOUSE, that's HOUSE, and get your risk-free bet up to $250 and your 20 bonus money at BorgataCasino.com. Your favorite casino is now your favorite sportsbook, available anywhere in New Jersey. BorgataSports.com. Must be 21 years or older and in New Jersey to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Listeners, we're going to cut away. We'll be back after a quick break.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Where was the house? Where was the House of Cards?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to House of Cards. For listeners who just tuned in, we're talking to Don Schlesinger, who is the author of a new version of the third edition Blackjack Attack, Playing the Pro's Way. Do you still go out there on the floor of the casino and play blackjack, or is it now pretty much a research and writing venture only for you?
Well, it's always been the two. It's kind of rare for somebody to claim that he's an expert on the game and do this kind of research and never to have played it. So that's certainly not the case with me. And I really did begin playing back in 1975. But the truth of the matter is that as I've gotten older and into other things and probably de-emphasized the amount of playing hours, I now still keep my hand in it, but I would say that it's greatly reduced in the amount of time that I play. And that's just a personal choice with grandchildren now and changing emphasis for my leisure time. But also, truth be told, the games have gotten a lot less attractive in general.
I see.
The rules have changed. The surveillance has changed. The way in which different casinos are linked corporately has changed. And so the ease with which a person can, shall we say, ply his craft is not what it used to be. So people talk about the good old days of the 1970s and 80s and the Las Vegas Strip, and then they talk about what that has turned into today in terms of games with poorer rules and different house policies. So, truth be told, my experience is that it's just not quite the same thrill and not quite the same experience playing today that it used to be.
Okay, I've heard that, and I've heard it from a number of people. Let me ask you the question in a slightly different way and just get to the brass tacks of it. If a young guy who knew somebody in your family and knew your name and read your book came to you, and as you being a mentor of sorts, and said, "Hey, Don, I'm single, I'm 24, I've got a bit of a bankroll, I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life, but I'm thinking of spending a year or two trying to be a professional blackjack player, playing around the country and around the world in all of these casinos that are now out there? Do you think if I master the craft, is it something I can make a living at, or is it really just a pipe dream and I should do something else? What would you say to this young man?
I would say don't quit your day job. And it's a standard response because what people do come to learn about this, and of course it depends on your financial situation going in, but when you have a job, you have the expectation of getting a paycheck on a regular basis, and you know that you can count on it, and you know that when the bills come due, the checks come in from your job as well. And this is the way a lot of young people and all people manage their finances. When you play blackjack, even assuming good conditions and your availability to travel so that you're not concentrating too much in one location where you might get known, the concept of any type of a regular stream of income is simply not something that you can count on. Profits from playing blackjack are subject to great variability and variance. And so those who know a little bit about math and an expectation or a mean and then a standard deviation or fluctuations around that mean will understand that when you have a fairly small edge, that results can be all over the place. And quite literally, you can go for very long stretches of time. And I'm not talking about days or weeks. I'm talking about months or even, God forbid, a year's worth of play or so where you simply don't win, or you win a lot less than you expected you would. And if you're trying to compare this to a paycheck, you find that it's a very different experience. So it's something that is probably not for the average person, but if you have enough of a bankroll so that you can experience these fluctuations and not let it get you down or not let it worry you, if you do have a prolonged losing streak, then it can be a wonderful adventure, but it's simply not for everybody.
Gotcha. Let me ask you a couple other questions. You were a math teacher and French teacher in the New York public schools, if I read your bio correctly.
Absolutely.
How did you get into the very different world of playing blackjack for a profit?
Well, I think it goes back really to my childhood. I was always interested in numbers, and particularly in probability theory from way back when I was a teenager. And when you would read books on math and on probability, you almost always had examples that were taken out of gambling. So you're learning probability, and they say, suppose you roll a pair of dice. What's the chance that you'll get a 7? So, 6 on one, 6 on the other, 36 combinations. How many add up to 7? 6 different ways, 6 out of 36, 1 6. And then they'd say, well, suppose you had a deck of cards and you drew 2 cards in a row. What's the probability they would both be spades or something like that? So at a very early age, it was kind of getting inculcated into me that a lot of the applications of probability theory, going way back to Blaise Pascal in France in the 17th century, were rooted in some of these gaming propositions. And then, I guess, in the early 1960s, 62, Ed Thorpe wrote the seminal book that started all the revolution of card counting, and that was Beat the Dealer. And I was 16 years old at the time, and I read that, and I was fascinated by the whole approach and what card counting was. But I was still too young to go into a casino and play, so I kind of filed it in the back of my mind for a number of years. And it wasn't until my first trip to Las Vegas in 1975 that I actually started to play and to think about, what card counting was all about. And it was kind of a funny story. A big text at the time was something called Playing Blackjack as a Business, written by Lawrence Revere, very famous text of the 1970s. Actually walked into the bookshop of the hotel that we were staying at, picked up the book, thumbed through it, looked at all the charts, the numbers, the tables, and I said to myself, wow, how could anybody ever do this? That's much too complicated. And I put the book down and walked out. But a year later, as I started to get a little bit more into it, I actually did pick up the book and I started to teach myself how to play. And I guess, the rest is history. So that was a little bit more than 40 years ago. And as I really started to be fascinated with all the numbers and the statistics and the math of the game, I began to actually do research and try to answer questions that hadn't been answered before, and that led to my contributions to that magazine that we spoke of earlier, and that's kind of the evolution of how I got into it.
Listeners, we're going to cut away. We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, this is Dave Weishuttle from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of September 16th, 2019. The first truck stop video gaming lounge has opened up in Pennsylvania. The Bald Eagle Travel Stop in north central Pennsylvania has partnered with Commonwealth Gaming to open their gaming terminals, which is comprised of low-stakes slot machines. The Expanded Gaming Act of 2017 allows small business owners and truck stops to have up to 5 video gaming terminals on the premises. The NFL's Arizona Cardinals have named the Gila River Hotel and Casino the official casino and hotel partner of the team. The partnership will include contests with Arizona Cardinals themes, as well as hotel rooms with Cardinals designs. Guests of the hotel and casino will also be treated to Cardinals broadcasts each week. And finally, it was a big Labor Day weekend for 2 players on PlaySugarHouse.com. On September 1st, a woman playing the Divine Fortune jackpot game won over $196,000, and then about 40 minutes later, a man playing on the same game won over $57,000 just after signing up on the website. Both wins represent the first progressive jackpots won online in Pennsylvania. That's a good way to end the summer. Have any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation? Send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on Twitter at HOC Radio.
You're listening to the House of Cards.
Okay, let's play some damn cards.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is Ashley Adams, your host on House of Cards. For listeners who just tuned in, we're talking to Don Schlesinger, who is the author of a new version of the 3rd edition Blackjack Attack, Playing the Pro's Way. That is fascinating, Don. I wonder, as you were getting into it, did you have a moment, an epiphany, let's say, when you realized, well, I'm going to be a theorist. I'm not going to try to do this for a living?
I think I never considered doing it for a living. I was a teacher, had a lovely career for 16 years teaching in the New York City school system, and then I had a great opportunity to take a leave of absence and try my hand at Wall Street. and I had a friend who worked on the American Stock Exchange in options, and he said, Don, this is all math. You'd love it. And I got into a small firm, and then I was fortunate enough to interview and get hired at Morgan Stanley, and I had a wonderful career there for more than 13 years. So truth be told, I never thought about doing this as a profession, and I always had a full-time job while I was playing. But the research and the intellectual aspect really was fascinating to me. And so starting with those 1980 articles and continuing even into present day, I've had a wonderful time doing the writing, doing the teaching. We actually taught blackjack at a blackjack school here in the New York area for 3 or 4 years. And I think that it's just the educator in me that has made it so that for me, perhaps even more so than the playing, has been the satisfaction of really teaching maybe hundreds, thousands of people about the finer points of the game, and that has given me a great deal of satisfaction.
Well, you clearly are a master teacher. I notice in your bio that you were inducted into the Blackjack Hall of Fame that I didn't even know existed. Where is it?
So there is a physical Hall of Fame, and it's at the Barona Casino, which is in a suburb of San Diego. And it's a wonderful venture that was started by a casino executive by the name of Max Rubin, and he lives in Las Vegas. And through his association with the casino, where he was an advisor and a trainer of pit personnel and surveillance, they funded what would turn into the Blackjack Hall of Fame. And each year, they convene over 100 specially invited guests from the world of blackjack, and this is players and researchers and authors like myself, and they're invited to a rather well-guarded secret location in Las Vegas, and there is a wonderful dinner that is catered by the Barona Casino, and there is an election of, used to be more, but now it's one single person a year by the attendees into the Blackjack Hall of Fame. And there's a competition, a lot of fun with different card counting and quizzes about gambling, and a winner is crowned, so that's a big accomplishment to whoever that winner is. But the Hall of Fame was started about, I'm going to say maybe 20 years ago or so, perhaps a little less, and they inducted an initial round of 6 or 7 people, but then it settled down into this one-a-year format. So I think there's about 28 members. Several of them actually are deceased. I have a feeling that there might be about 18 or 19 living members of the Blackjack Hall of Fame, and I was fortunate enough to be inducted in 2015.
Well, that's a great achievement. We have about a minute and a half left, Don, and I had a couple of quick questions for you, kind of plebeian, but I think our listeners will be interested. If you had a very smart guy or woman, and they asked to be trained on counting cards so that they would be at least proficient to having a very slight edge over the house, and they were willing to work hard and practice, how long would it take for a studious and a hardworking person to assiduously apply all this stuff and become at least competent in the card counting they would need to beat the casino?
And so, it is somewhat individualized. It doesn't hurt to have a facility with numbers, but this is not brain surgery, and this is not calculus. This is just watching the cards as they fall and assigning, a point value of this one is a +1, this one's a -1, this one is a 0, aggregating a running tally as the cards. So it's practice. It's practice makes perfect. You have a lot of software these days that simulate dealing of cards. We used to have to deal everything out on a tabletop and do it ourselves, but now there's a lot of things that are aids. And so depending on how much time that you might have per day to devote to this is really not difficult. The actual difficult thing about being successful as a card counter is not actually mastering the skill or the mental agility. It's being able to get away with it in a casino and not have surveillance tell you that you can't play anymore. So the learning is something well within the grasp of a person with average ability with numbers. The plying of your trade and getting away with it on a long-term basis is where there's the finesse and the skill to allow you to have some sort of longevity.
Okay. Well, I think that answers the question, maybe not with a specific time table, but it definitely says to me that if somebody really wanted to do it, it would not be that hard to learn the technique, but then getting past security and countermeasures and all of that is another story.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to put an honest timetable to it, if you had a couple of hours to devote to it every day and you kept on practicing and you took a deck of cards around with you and whenever had a few minutes you flipped through them and things like that, this could easily be done in a month or two.
All right. Well, that's very useful to know. We're going to end, but I just wanted to ask you, what do you think about the proliferation of gambling in general in casinos across the United States, which we have seen explode in the last 20 years? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think it was inevitable, and I would like to think that it's a good thing. There's plenty of arguments and people, who argue against gambling and some of the vices, but this is always a personal choice, as with so many things. Casinos can open, nobody forces you to go to them, but for those who enjoy it, the availability in more venues now in the Northeast, in the South, you start to have the ability to, if you enjoy gambling, it used to be, well, you had to go to Las Vegas, and not always easy for everybody. Now people have casinos within a very short, mile radius of where they live, and so I'd like to think that both that and the advent of sports wagering and how that is starting to grow from state to state, I always think that it's good to have these things out there, whether or not people partake, whether or not it's your cup of tea. That's a personal decision, but the ability and the availability to have it, to me, is a good thing.
All right, we're going to have to end with that. Don Schlesinger, author of Blackjack Attack, Playing the Pros Way. You've been a great guest, Don, and you are an enormous resource to so many people in the gambling industry. I just want to thank you on their behalf.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Okay, listeners, we're going to take a quick break, then we'll be back with our next guest. Borgata made history by becoming the first Atlantic City casino to offer land-based sports betting. Now, 1 year later, Borgata adds to its history by launching its own online sports betting platform, BorgataSports.com. BorgataSports.com players can enjoy the same range of sports bets currently offered at Borgata's land-based sportsbook, the new Moneyline Bar and Book. You'll find straight bets, parlay bets, live in-game betting, and much, much more at BorgataSports.com. BorgataSports.com also offers customers multiple deposit and withdrawal methods. And now, when you sign up at BorgataSports.com using our promo code HOUSE, that's HOUSE, you get a risk-free bet up to $250 and 20 bonus dollars at BorgataCasino.com. Borgata has made history again with BorgataSports.com. Sign up today with promo code HOUSE, that's HOUSE, and get your risk-free bet up to $250 and your 20 bonus money at BorgataCasino.com. Your favorite casino is now your favorite sportsbook, available anywhere in New Jersey. BorgataSports.com. Must be 21 years or older and in New Jersey to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You've been hearing me talk about MyPillow and the benefits of using it to get a good night's sleep. Now, not only can you pick up the special deal for 4 MyPillows when you use our promo code CARDS, but now you can get $100 off your purchase of the MyPillow mattress. The MyPillow mattress comes with a 10-year warranty and a 120-day money-back guarantee. The MyPillow mattress is made up of 3 unique layers, providing you the comfort and support to fall asleep and stay asleep all night. Just head on over to MyPillow.com, click on the MyPillow mattress link, and enter promo code CARDS at checkout to get $100 off your order. Or call 1-800-319-7913 to order by phone. That's MyPillow.com, or call 1-800-319-7913 and use promo code CARDS. Listeners, we're going to cut away. We'll be back after a quick break.
House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to Drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with Drizzly.com.
Yeah, you, come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore.
Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
This is House of Cards Radio with Ashley Adams.
Well, I guess he couldn't be any worse than Tim McCarver is at sportscasting.
In my view, as good as the Yankees were in the first half of this game, that's how as bad they've been now.
Welcome back, listeners. This is House of Cards. I'm Ashley Adams. This is our mailbag segment, and I'm joined by Dave Weishuttle. Dave, what do we got this week?
Well, this week, you just came back from one of your poker odysseys. You know, every time you come back from a trip, I ask you, usually, hey, how was it? And you go into these stories. I'm like, hold on, save it for the air. So I know you went to what is quickly becoming one of my favorite states for gambling is Pennsylvania. I guess you started off there.
Oh, yeah. I drove. My wife and I were in western Massachusetts on a Friday night. We always spend our Friday nights together. And then Saturday at 2 a.m., I set out to drive eventually to Minnesota, where my brother lives. And I made it to Pittsburgh at about noontime, saw an old friend, had a brief lunch, and then went to the Meadows. I remembered absolutely nothing about driving around Pittsburgh. I used to live in Pittsburgh. I was a union organizer there in the 1983 to 1988, and I did not remember anything, the highway system, the local roads.
Did it change so much? Or
I don't know.
You just,
I kept looking to see, well, what's changed, and I didn't remember anything. I mean, I remembered the name of some of the streets, but you know how when you're driving, you kind of have a map in your brain and you follow it. None of that was there. I couldn't remember where different neighborhoods were relative to other neighborhoods. It was very distressing. I felt very old. It's been 23 years since I lived there. but I figured that even so, I'd still remember.
Shouldn't change that much.
Right. So I drove down from Pittsburgh to Canonsburg. Canonsburg is a small city. Actually, the area is called Washington, Pennsylvania. There's a small liberal arts college down there. But Canonsburg used to have a racetrack called the Meadows. And a few years ago, the Meadows expanded to include table games. And then 2 years ago, they got poker. Or 1 year ago, maybe it was. And I have been meaning to go there and finally made it down there. The room is terrific. It's a little dark. It had been, I think, poorly managed. They had just fired their poker room manager. And they had a big tournament there. I played in a cash game. I made a little money. Then I went up to the other poker room in the western Pennsylvania area. Great room called the Rivers. It's a somewhat glitzier place. I think they attract a larger crowd. They certainly had a larger crowd when I was there.
It's right in Pittsburgh, too, right?
Yeah, it's right by what used to be Three Rivers Stadium, and now is PNC Park or something.
It's not Heinz Field, is it? It's Heinz Field.
Heinz
Heinz, 57 sauce.
Yeah. But it's right on the other side of the river from the heart of downtown, and a lot of traffic in and out of the casino. It was bustling. It seemed a lot bigger than the Canonsburg room, but it only has 4 more tables. It's 30 tables, but it seemed much bigger. I'm not really sure why. There were many more young players up at the Rivers. There were players of different ethnicities. Down in the Meadows, it tended to be all white, almost all middle-aged and older white guys. Here you had young Asian players, you had young black players, you had young white players, you had middle-aged players, you had a lot more women, a lot more kind of people that were out having a good time Saturday night instead of people grinding or just going to the track. And I love.
Well, that was going to be my question about Western Pennsylvania. What are the players like? Are they tourists or are they the daily grinders that you really should stay away from if you're kind of a new kind of a poker player?
Well, what I would say is that in Canonsburg, the players seem to be not just big-time gamblers, regulars more, but the level of play was not good. They were regular, timid, home game players who played now in a casino. There were a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, they were not terribly skilled. Very nice people I'd like to have over for dinner, people I'd like to play against in the poker room, but easily intimidated. Kind of like when you hear young guns talking about why people my age are such good opponents to have because we're scared of money. That's the way I felt against these players. If you raise by $50, you can get almost anybody to fold, even if it's, they have a shot of drawing a nut flush or whatever. If you can play a little deep stack poker against them, so even if they have only $300 or $400, you can manipulate them with some large bets. That'll do it, listeners. We're going to end the show, but come back next week. And until then, good luck and good day.
Everything, so speak the language slow.